Swami Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Om Swa Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa Parvajakacarya Satar Sita Shri Srimad Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada ki jai. Anantakoti Vaishnavrinda ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se Gaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakun Radha Kun Giri Govardhan ki jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Shri Mathura Dham ki jai. Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai. Navadvip Dham ki jai. Ganga Mai ki jai. Yamuna Mai ki jai. Tulsi Devi ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Shri Shri Gaurnitai ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 10. Bhagavatam is the answer to all questions. Text number 8. Ya
Adhyatmaka Ayam Purusha Sa Asa Eva Aridaivaka Ya Tatra Ubaya Vacheda Purusha Hi Adibhataka Yajatmakayam Purusha Sasaveva Didaivakaha Yastatra Bhaya Vacheda Purusha Yadibhatakaha Yajatmakayam Purusha Sasaveva Didaivakaha Yastatra Bhaya Vacheda Purusha Yadibhatakaha Yajatmakayam Purusha Sasaveva Didaivakaha Yastatra Bhaya Vacheda Purusha Dibhatakaha. Please chant.
Yojatmiko Yam Purusha
Jayakayam Purusha
Sosaveva Didaivakaha
Sasaveva Didaivakaha
Yastatro Bhaya Vicheda Purusho Hyadibhautikaha
Purusha Yadibhatakaha
Yojatmiko Yang Purusha So Shavivati Daivikaha
Daivakaha
Yastatro Bhaya Vicheda
Bhaya Vicheda
Purusho Yadibhatikaha
Sayadibhatakaha.
Yodyatmikoyan Purushaha So Sav Eva Didaivikaha Yas Tatro Bhaya Vicheda Purusho Yadi Bhautikaha
Yodhyatmiko yam purusha
Yadikayam Purusha
so saveda didaivika yastatro payavichcheda purusho yadi bhautika
Yodhyatmiko yam purusha
Yadikayam
so saveva didaivikaha yastatro bhayavichchedaha
Bhaya Vicheda
purusho hyadi bhautikaha
Yadisayani Bhautakaha
Yodhyatmiko yam purusha
Yadikayam Purusha
so savyeva hidaivikaha yastatro bhayavicheda
Yastatra Bhaya Vicheda
purusho hyadipotikaha
Purusha Yadi Bhautakaha
Yodhyatmiko yam purusha
Yadikayam Purusha
Sosaveva didaivaka
Susavaya Daivakaha
Yastatro bhaya vichcheda
Yastatra Bhaya Vicheda
Purusho hyadibodhaka
Purusha Yadi Bhautakaha One who Adhyatmika is presence of the sense organs. Ayam, this, Purusha, personality, Sa, he, Asal, that, Eva, also, Adidaivaka, controlling deity, Ya, that which, Tatra, there, Ubhaya, of both, Vicheda, separation, Purusha, person, he, for, Adibhautaka, the visible body or the embodied living entity. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The individual person possessing different instruments of senses is called the Adhyatmic person, and the individual controlling deity of the senses is called Adidaivik. The embodiment seen on the eyeballs is called the Adibhauta person. Purport. The supreme controlling summum bonum is the personality of Godhead in its plenary portion of Paramatma, or the Supersoul manifestation. In the Bhagavad Gita 10.42 it is said, Ataiva bahunetena kim getena tavarjuna Vishtabhyaham adam kritsnam ekam stena stago jagat. All the controlling deities, like Vishnu, Brahma, and Shiva, are different manifestations of the Paramatma feature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, who exhibits himself in such manners by entering into each and every universe generated from him. But still apparently there are divisions of the controller and the controlled. For example, in the food controlling department, the controller of food is a person made of the same ingredients as the person who is controlled. Similarly, each and every individual in the material world is controlled by the higher demigods. For example, we have our senses, but the senses are controlled by superior controlling deities. We cannot see without light, and the supreme controller of light is the sun. The sun god is in the sun planet, and we, the individual human beings or any other being on this earth, are all controlled by the sun god as far as our eyes are concerned. Similarly, all the senses we have are controlled by the superior demigods, who are also as much living entities as we are, but one is empowered while the other is controlled. The controlled living entity is called the Adhyatmic person, and the controller is called the Adhidaivic person. All these positions in the material world are due to different fruitive activities. Any individual living being can become the sun god, or even Brahma, or any other god in the upper planetary system by a higher grade of pious work. And similarly, one becomes controlled by the higher demigods by lower grades of fruitive activities. So, every individual living entity is subject to the supreme control of the Paramatma, Jai Shri Gauranitai, who puts everyone in different positions of the controller and the controlled. That which distinguishes the controller and the controlled, that is, the material body, is called the Adibautic Purusha. The body is sometimes called Purusha, as confirmed in the Vedas in the following hymn. Sava Esha Purusha Na Rasamaya. This body is called the Ana Rasa embodiment. This body depends on food. The living entity which is embodied does not eat anything, however, because the owner is spirit in essence. The material body requires replacement of matter for the wearing and tearing of the mechanical body. Therefore, the distinction between the individual living entity and controlling planetary deities is in the Anurasamaya body. The sun may have a gigantic body, and a man may have a smaller body, but all these visible bodies are made of matter. Nonetheless, the sun god and the individual person, who are related as the controller and the controlled, are the same spiritual parts and parcels of the Supreme Being. And it is the Supreme Being who places different parts and parcels in different positions. And thus the conclusion is that the Supreme Person is the shelter of all. Translation again. The individual person possessing different instruments of senses is called the Adhyatmic person, and the individual controlling deity of the senses is called Adhidaivic. The embodiment seen on the eyeballs is called the Adibautic person. Donovan Maharaj, we'd like to hear your thoughts on Srimad Bhagavatam.
These three types of persons, the Adhyatmic person, that's the one who's possessing different instruments of the senses. So we're all Adhyatmic persons because we have senses. The mind and I have my own senses, and therefore we say the Adhyatmika miseries, because we say Adhyatmika, Adhibautika, Adhidaivica miseries too. So in other words, the miseries of the Adhyatmika are caused by my mind and myself, my senses. If I hit my finger with a hammer that I'm wielding, then I cause myself suffering. Adhyatmika miseries. Or if I get in depression just because I'm not happy with the way things are going, that's called Adhyatmika. Yeah, that's the same thing. I know that's caused by me and my senses. But me is actually transcendental to all these things. The sense of me is that the me, the living entity, is transcendental. Therefore, he's not subjected to adibhautika miseries, adhyatmika miseries, or adidaivika miseries, because he's above that. He's transcendental. But as long as he's on the material platform, he has to suffer these three types of miseries. And the first one is adhyatmika. And the next one is adidaivika, listed here. Adidaivika means that these things are controlled by the demigods. Demigods are representatives of Paramatma. Paramatma is the super soul. And the Paramatma is the plenary portion of Krishna. Krishna is the Bhagavan, Supreme Personality of Godhead, Paripurna, topmost. And the Paramatma feature is expanded into every living entity. They get their own local controller, super soul. And then the demigods, they are empowered by the super soul. As the verse that Prabhupada quoted in the purport, this verse, Ekankshena Sito Jagat, that what is the need of all this detailed information about his glories with just a spark of his splendor? I mean super soul, or the Mahavishnu, Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, and Kshirodakashayi Vishnu. So the Kshirodakashayi Vishnu is to spark Ekankshena, or Kala, as given in the Bhagavatam, the portions, all the Ete Chanksa Kala. Anksa means the parts, and then Kala means another part of the part. All these different manifestations are coming from Krishna. Krishna is the source. So, Super Soul is in charge of the maintenance of the universe, maintaining this universe. But he's engaging, we read, how many crores? 33 crores. 33 crores of demigods. That means 330 million demigods are employed just in this one universe, and they're all working under Paramatma. When difficulties come, Brahma and all the demigods, they go and visit Kshirodakashayi Vishnu, the ocean of milk, and they present their concerns, their difficulties, and they ask for how to be saved, and he saves them. He organizes them. That's called Adidaivik. Our eyes, we may think that I'm controlling my eyes. I'm not controlling my eyes. The sun, without the sun, my eyes don't work. Or even without some specific controlling deity, I can't even blink my eyes. In the higher planets, by the way, the demigods, they don't blink their eyes. And that's why the gopis, they were very critical of Brahma. Why have you made these eyes that blink? We're trying to look at Krishna, and while we're looking at Krishna, the eyes are blinking away, getting in the way. And we're not able to see the beautiful form of Krishna. So, we think you're a dunce because you've made such a foolish type of body that has blinking eyes. But anyway, all the demigods, they're controlling different parts of the body. The blinking of the eyes, moving of the legs. We may think, I'm free to move my legs as I like. But if you're paralyzed, if your legs are paralyzed by the demigods, you won't be able to walk. And the mind, all these different senses are controlled by the demigods. So when one is facing difficult or miserable, unpleasant circumstances that are caused by the demigods, deva, then that's called adidevika miseries. Too cold. It's too cold. So that's adidevika miseries. You can't do anything about it. It's just too cold. So you're stuck. You just get the miseries. Then the third type is visible on the eyeball. That's on the eyeballs. That means we're other living entities. We're seeing other outside us, and they may cause it. Germs, other germs. They're other living entities just like I am. They're causing me misery. Or other humans or other dogs. There's so many miseries that are inflicted by other persons, and there's other demigods. They're also persons. And then there's myself, my own senses that I'm trying to control. I can't control them properly. So this is a kind of a general I'm appreciating this verse because I never thought too much about this before, about who was it asking me about the other day? We were talking about the adibodhika miseries, or adibodhika person is on the eyeballs. Who was I talking? Okay, anyway, we were discussing this, and so now, by Krishna's grace, we're discussing it in here, and Prabhupada clears it up. So these three different types of miseries are inflicted, but if one realizes he's not the body, that he's spirit soul, then he's not affected by any of them. Then there's no such thing as too cold, because the soul doesn't get cold. The soul is not affected by coldness or hotness, or even if you put the soul in fire, it doesn't affect. It has no effect because he's of a different energy, different nature. So the soul is not affected by heat, by cold, by instruments, crushing, wetting, soaking, air, taking away all the liquidity. All those things are just in connection with the body, whereas the soul is not touched by any of those things. He's not touched by lamentation. But because he's identifying with the body, then he laments. So, thank you.
Dhanavar Maharaj, thank you for your enlightening comments. Just like Maharaj said, he was asked some question about the subject matter, and in today's verse, the answer is right there. And this chapter is called Bhagavatam is the answer to all questions. People have so many questions, but they're looking for the answers in the wrong places, and they're not getting conclusive answers. But when it comes to the Bhagavatam, there are conclusive answers that are applicable in all time, all places, all circumstances. And because the Bhagavatam is studied even in the higher planets of the demigods. In Christian theology, they have a concept called the Holy Trinity, and we see this building was built as the Presbyterian Church, and on the on the top near the ceiling, we can see 3 panels. This represents the Holy Trinity, which they call the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and which we call Krishna, the Jiva, and the Paramatma. And the individual body is composed of senses. There are 5 knowledge-acquiring senses and 5 working senses. And this subject matter is very nicely explained by Lord Krishna in chapter 13 in Bhagavad Gita. In the beginning of chapter 13, Krishna says that one who understands what is this body and what is the owner of the body is called knowledge. So this is again in Brahman realization. Also in Bhagavad Gita, it said that there are 5 stages of Brahman realization. There's Anamaya, there's Pranamaya, there's Jnanamaya, there's Vijnanamaya, and finally Anamaya. Oh, I'm sorry, my words corrected me. Anandamaya. Anandamaya is Krishna. So the first stage is realization of Brahman and food. Then Jnanamaya, Pranamaya is realization of the living symptoms. And there's Jnanamaya, and there's Vijnanamaya, one distinguishes matter from spirit. And in Anandamaya, one can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So this translation says the embodiment seen on the eyeballs is called the adipathic person. Actually, the eyeballs are a very complex machine, and the scientists cannot explain how the eyeball ever evolved, because it's very complex. And Darwin's theory of evolution has no explanation for the evolution of complex things. And the theory that the human being evolved from the monkeys is the most degraded thing. And this theory has destroyed the human civilization. Because every scripture says that whatever we see, it was created, and there's a controller and the controlled. We are always controlled. We're never independent. Either we're controlled by the inferior energy, or we're controlled by the superior energy. But the real controller is Krishna, and the controller can be explained as God. Like you could, if you want, you could become one of the demigods. You could become a sun god or Lord Brahma. By following the Varnashram system for 100 births, one could become Lord Brahma if he follows the Varnashram system properly. But the highest goal of life is not to become a demigod, which is a temporary position, but to go back home, back to Godhead, and be reinstated in one's constitutional position as the eternal servant of Krishna. It says that the controlling deities like Vishnu, Brahma, and Shiva are different manifestations of Paramatma. Vishnu is the guna avatar, or the mode of goodness. Brahma is guna avatar, the mode of passion, and Shiva is the guna avatar, and Tamaguna, the mode of ignorance. Are there any comments or questions? Yes.
Thank you, Maharaj, for a nice class. Um, just a little elaboration on my question from yesterday, because I had asked how the name Brahma could be part of the nomenclature of the Supreme Lord, and Maharaj gave a nice explanation. But I was just wondering if we could further clarify how, when we chant, that we have the 10 offenses. And in the 10 offenses, we specifically say not to equate the names of the demigods. Specifically, Lord Brahma is mentioned. So, can you just make it clear how we're not doing that by putting Brahma in the nomenclature? Because it seemed like also as a guna avatar, he also seems to be in the nomenclature.
Yes, there's no one equal to or independent of Krishna. There's no one equal to Krishna, and there's nobody greater than Krishna. And to think that someone else is equal to Krishna or greater than Krishna is an offense. Just like in the Hindu faith, there's so much confusion as to who was supreme, because Hinduism is full of pantheism, because the Hindus generally worship many demigods, and some thinks Brahma is supreme, some thinks Shiva is supreme. So there's a great deal of confusion. But if we hear from a pure devotee of Krishna, we can understand what the actual fact is. So, therefore, Prabhupada presented Bhagavad Gita as it is, and Srimad Bhagavatam as it is. Rishi Kumar Prabhu.
On to that, just based on what Maharaj was saying yesterday, on that, from what I understood, it was just a different use of the wording, because it wasn't talking about Lord Brahma, but it was talking about, like we see here in the Bhagavad Gita 10:12, Arjuna Vacha Param Brahma Param Dhamma says, Arjuna said, you are the supreme personality of Godhead, Param Brahma, the ultimate abode. So it's just not referring to Lord Brahma at all, but to this Param Brahma, the supreme truth. So like the Brahman conception, or supreme spirit.
The only confusion that I was experiencing, though, was that the A had a long A, as in Brahma, instead of Brahma. And that was what was making it confusing for me. But I accept the answer. I was really asking because I wanted to make sure that, like, how I would explain that if somebody were to ask me. Because I understand the concept that Brahma and Shiva are not equal to or independent of Lord Krishna. But when I saw that the Brahma had a long A on it, and then also it seems like as a guna avatar, he's kind of included in the nomenclature. But I think I can, I accept the answer.
The impersonalists have the saying, Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya. We, as Vaishnavas, accept the first part of that verse, but not the second part. We also say Brahma is truth, Brahma Satya, but not Jagat Mithya. We say the Jagat is temporary, but it's not false. Rishi Kumar Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. I know I would make more advancement by asking you a question, but there's one comment that came to mind that I wanted to make. That according to Darwin's theory, actually, everything that you were saying, like you were saying that Darwin's theory is faulty. And even according to Darwin's theory, what you're saying is correct, because his theory is that as time goes on, more advanced beings come. So you came after Darwin, so therefore you're more advanced, and now you're giving a more advanced understanding of his theory. So even according to his theory, what you're saying is correct.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. All glories to His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada.
So once we have Sri Sri Gaurnitai's darshan, then we'll read the book scores for this week. All right, so for this week, we had, let me say the first things first. So we're going to read the scores for this second week of January for the pleasure of their lordships. Sri Sri Gauranitai, Tulsi Maharani, Lord Nrsimhadev, the Sampradaya Acharyas, Srila Prabhupada, and His Holiness Danavir Goswami, and the assembled devotees. So this week we had 2 book distributors. In second position with 1 small book for a total of 0.25 book points, Mogadari Prabhu. Haribo. In first position with 7 small books, 4 medium books, 6 big books, and 4 Maha big books for a total of 17.75 book points, Rishi Kumar Das. Hare Krishna. So the total for RVC is 8 small books, 4 medium books, 6 big books, and 4 Maha big books for a total of 18 book points. Rupanuga Vedic College Ki Jai. So a highlight from this week, we were mostly doing cooking this week and driving some devotees for errands. Srila Prabhupada didn't say drive for errands and the Krishna consciousness movement will automatically increase. But he did say that if you distribute these books, the Krishna consciousness movement will automatically increase. So while we were doing the errands, there was this, I was with Valmiki Prabhu and Dwijamani Prabhu, and there was this lady with a big afro just out in the cold at the bus stop. And we all noticed her, I guess, because of the big afro. So we rolled down the window, and Valmiki or someone said, it was either Valmiki or Dwijamani Prabhu said, "Do you like books?" or something like that. They said something to her, and she was actually, it seemed like there's like some positive response. So we just pulled over real quick because the light turned right when they said that. We just pulled into the parking lot by the bus stop. And they told me to hop out and give her the book. So I hopped out and said something like, "How can I get my hair like that?" And we just talked really brief. And she was really nice. She was interested in the books. And I was surprised she like gave us the time of day, even though it was like freezing out and everything. And she just gave some change and took a small book. So, Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai. Mogadari, are you able to give us a highlight? That's okay, I guess. You might be serving Maharaj Prasadam right now. Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.